Welcome to this week's End of Days Update, coming to you from Tulsa, Oklahoma. We had such a great Thanksgiving this last week. If you're in the States, we had Thanksgiving being celebrated throughout all of America. It's awesome that even if we didn't live in America, wherever, when people are celebrating Thanksgiving, it's good to be thankful for what the Lord's done for you. There's something about that kind of thought pattern of thankfulness is always proper and humble. If you're anywhere this weekend, we're not going to be anywhere this weekend, so we're home for 2 weeks. It's so cool to have some time to be home, get some things shot, but we will be preaching this Friday in Budapest on healing for the school there. We'll have a great time. We'll get into the word about healing. It's nice to know that we're redeemed from the curse of the law. You'll notice Jesus was raised from the dead, so we should enjoy every single benefit that we get from him. So that's what's happening with the End of Days Update. You know, when we started this years ago, I thought I would do it for 2 weeks, and now I think we're looking at about 15 years now, to look at the different things that point to the coming of the Lord, because there were so many weird teachings that scared people. So finding out what happened in Israel this last week, it shows you that the Bible's coming to pass right in front of your eyes. So it wasn't to scare people, it was to get people excited. And then other people would say, well, you're just going to have an escape theology. Absolutely, I'm supposed to be evacuated before the tribulation. So the End of Days Update came out just to show people there are things happening specifically in Israel every single week that show us how close we are to the coming of the Lord. And why would that be a big deal? Remember Jesus, when he rebuked the crowd, he said, well, he only rebuked the crowd one time. The Pharisees, he did over and over and over again. They need to be rebuked. But to the crowd, he said, you can tell what the weather's going to be, but you don't know your hour of visitation. So he wanted them to know. Same thing when the madman Gadara came up. You had the demons that Jesus cast out, and the demons said to Jesus, hey, whoa. You've come before your time. You're early. So they knew Jesus was on a schedule, but they basically said, you're early on your schedule. So if demons can know the schedule, how much more the church? So it's intriguing to see how people treated Jesus when he said that, because they were looking like, what do you mean, hour of your visitation? So the Old Covenant, they had a tribe of Issachar. The Bible said that they had an understanding of the times to know what the children of Israel ought to do, indicating if we don't know what time it is, we don't know what to do. Why do you wear a watch? So you'll be where you're supposed to be on time. So Israel is our timepiece. So when we look at everything that happened this last week, especially when you look at God said this and it came to pass, God said this and it came to pass, he said it 1,700 years ago, 2,400 years ago, and 2,500 years ago. So it shows you the authenticity of the Bible. So this last week, we probably can get into everything that happened. There's just been, we probably can't get into everything that happened, but it's amazing that one thing after another is happening that shows us how close we are. So you had Pope Leo strongly endorse the two-state solution. Ben Gvir on the Monday rejected the Pope's call for a Palestinian state. I like someone needs to be bold about this. I don't know everything about this guy, but he's so far right-wing, he was trying to haul people up on the Temple Mount a couple of times, almost started a war over that. But he rejected a Palestinian state, and there should be a radical rejection of that for all over Israel. And we'll see probably in the next 3 to 4 weeks, probably the first part of next year, in January, watch the players come back again to push for Palestinian states. Watch, the borders will be the Six-Day War. In other words, everything connected to Jerusalem being won back, it'll come to the forefront. The UN will talk about it. The EU will talk about it. All these groups will once more push for, let's get a satanic operation going for the Palestinians. So I like that he rejected that, because all the other leaders reject it, but they don't want to be on camera. They don't want to be on in other words, mark it down. This is how it should be. So I like what he said when he was up on the Temple Mount. He said, we believe in the Torah of Israel. So thank God there's some Israelis sticking to what they need to stick to. And this last week you had Putin gave another warning to Europe. The tone throughout all what we saw this last week was every single nation in NATO was pointing to, we're getting ready to be attacked by Russia. So Putin gave a warning to Europe. If Europe suddenly wants to start a war with us and starts it, Putin said, it would be the end swiftly for Europe. And that will be one thing that won't be one person left to negotiate in Europe. He basically said everybody's going to die. So Turkey called for closer diplomatic and trade relations with Iran. Why is that a big deal? You got Russia, you got Turkey, and you got Iran. All these players that are in the Ezekiel 38 war, they're all in the news this last week. Why? They're making adjustments and making diplomatic changes for trade relations just so they can have their whole nation ready. One of the things we talked about with having nations ready is, why would Iran want to come down and annihilate Israel? They think when they destroy Israel as a nation, their Messiah comes. Well, along with that, you've got Turkey thinks the same thing. And then Iran thinks the same thing, but Iran's got no water. Iran's got natural things happening to it that are causing them to look up and go, okay, why? Because during that 7-year tribulation period, there'll be event after event after event that will be pushing nations to go, hey, something's going on. So Iran should start thinking right now, we have no water. Israel has tons of water. Israel has the largest number of production of fruit of any nation on the planet. 90% of Europe's fruit comes from Israel. So when you look at how extreme that is for Israel to look so blessed, and look at Iran, and you go, wow, what's the difference there? Well, Lucifer was ruling Iran, and the Lord is ruling Israel. So what a completely different situation. You have an Israel security official warned that Iran is ramping up their military in fear of an Israeli strike. You got it every single week. There's some different verbiage that comes out. So when you get the tone of it each week, you know something's getting ready to happen. So they're trying to warn everybody Israel's going to attack Iran. You got Israel received some of the remains of some of the last hostages. Gosh, the Rafah border may be reopened soon there in Egypt. If we looked at everything that was happening with the hostages and how the ceasefire every single day is broken, and then they say it's back again, broken back again, mainly because the movements that they're trying to do inside of Gaza, someone gets shot because they take it as a bad move. So, man, it'll be interesting to see when finally everyone gets back home. Can you imagine having a loved one that you've been waiting all this time for them to get back home? Believe God they'll be strengthened and be able to get back home. Israel's also figured out a way to intercept drone attacks. I mean, what's coming for the future is massive amounts of drones. When I looked at some of the drones that came out this last week for America, they were drones that could handle 5 different Sidewinder missiles. And now you've got it where Israel's got this laser weaponry set up. We know we have the Iron Dome, you have David Slingshot. Each one of those are for different altitudes. And with the drones that came in, they were so low, it was hard for Israel to spot those and take them out. Well, they were suicide drones. That's basically what they were. And now Israel's figured out how to take care of that. So I love that Israel's technology keeps getting ahead of every kind of war that comes against them. And with that, to make it make even more sense, you got 11 U.S. warships are now in the Caribbean because of the tensions with Venezuela. Who would ever thought that all of a sudden you not only have world war talked about in Iran and Turkey and Russia, you've got now below the United States and Venezuela, that guy's going crazy with, what's he going crazy with? We're having to stop the flow of drugs into our country. So when someone wants to hold the law up, you've got people that are lawless that don't like that. But wow, it should be preaching to us every week. Jesus is just about to come back. It's one thing after another. And what did he say when these things begin to happen? He said, lift up your heads. He said, your redemption draws nigh. So basically, don't be downtrodden. When you see this happening, this happening, this happening, don't freak out. Because he said there'd be wars and rumors of wars. So he said, don't be troubled. Don't be deceived. Think about it. 5 things about the coming of the Lord. Don't be troubled. Don't be deceived. I want you happy. I want you hopeful. I want you comforted. 5 different things about the coming of the Lord, and they're all to bring you joy and peace. So when we see nations do stuff like this with Venezuela, don't freak out about it. Just go, you know what, just a part of the whole deal happening where the world is getting ready basically for the king to show up. And boy, that 7 years before that, the devil's going to get to do a little of this stuff. So you got Japanese boats along with Chinese boats off of the border off of Taiwan. I mean, when you're seeing stuff in Europe come to pass, stuff in South Central America coming to pass, and then all of a sudden now you have the Asia stuff coming to pass, it just pushes it even more for us to get, okay, what can I do for my local church? What can I do for my local pastor? How can I be more engaged? How can I be more involved? When you see all this stuff preaching to us, that's when we go, man, the king's just about to come. You had a tropical cyclone kill over 1,000 people in an affected area, millions across Indonesia and Thailand and Malaysia. We don't get into it every week because there's just so much to get into, but the natural things that are going on that show you that nature is basically getting ready for the entrance of the king. That's what the Bible says, that even the earth will make preparation for a grand entrance, and that grand entrance is the second coming of the Lord. We go through all these things, but then it points to us not to be freaked out. So there's signs that we had over the years that God put these signs on here so that we would have peace. The signs are not there to scare you. The signs are there to tell you you're getting close to your destination. So what do we have? You had Israel made a nation in 1948. You had Jerusalem won back in 1967. You had the Hebrew language restored in our lifetime. Because God said, just before the Messiah comes, I'll restore to them a pure language. Well, boom, happened 115, 120 years ago. No one spoke Hebrew. Now everyone speaks Hebrew. So you've got them brought back to their land. You've got Jerusalem won back. You got the language restored. You have the Ethiopian Jews brought back. 18,000 Ethiopian Jews were airlifted in one day. Chuck Roberts on CNN Headline News said an Exodus that eclipses the book of Exodus. I mean, how amazing is that the world is preaching about how amazing this Exodus is. So God brought them back. You had foxes on the Temple Mount. You had fish in the Dead Sea. You had the Dead Sea turn blood red where Sodom and Gomorrah was, and it happened on the Day of Atonement. I think that's just crazy wild. You had the ritual baths around the Temple Mount fill up with water, first time in 2,000 years. You had birds show up, 172 different species of predatory birds. That's radical. Why? Right after the Ezekiel 38 war, God calls on the fowl of the air to come clean the land up. 7 years later, after the Battle of Armageddon, he calls on the fowl of the air to come clean the land up. So you got the cleanup crew in Israel. So you've got animals in position. What does that sound like? Remember, you had foxes in position, fish in position, birds in position. When Noah was preaching about the flood that was coming, what's the number one thing that happened right there is you had animals lined up to get on that boat. So you got animals obeying God, and now you got birds and fish and all these others obeying God. But it goes on from there. You got men will be lovers themselves, so selfie sticks. You have one thing after another showing how close we are. It's preaching to us that Jesus is just about to come back. Wow, how blessed are we to be that generation that the King comes back. And I've said it this way many times about getting married. How many of you were excited the night before you got married? I would hope you were happy and filled with joy and expectation and great grace. We should be thinking, Jesus is just about to come back. What can I do in my family? What can I do in my household to get this message out? Well, we're going to come back next week and we're going to look at what Russia's done, what Iran's done. I'm also always looking for Isaiah 17 when Damascus will be removed from being a city. So all these end time events are happening right in front of our eyes. Lift up your heads. Your redemption draws nigh. You're about to see Jesus face to face. How exciting to all of a sudden see the King of glory, the righteous one, the firstborn from the dead, the lily of the valley, the King of kings and the Lord of lords, the bright and morning star, Jesus. Everything should revolve around him. Have a blessed week. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Thanks for joining us today at the End of Days Update. If you'd like to be notified every time there's a new post, just go to the edu at josephmorris.com and subscribe to receive email alerts. If these posts and updates have been a blessing to you, please consider making a one-time donation to help get the message out, or even becoming a monthly partner with Joseph Morris Ministries. Thanks again for tuning in to the EDU, and we'll see you next week.